Well, hello, welcome. It's the Jack and Jack show for the fourth week running. It's now, it's beyond a hat trick, Jack. Wow. Uh, who scored four in a game? Trying to think.
Arshavin.
Arshavin. It is Arshavin.
Arshavin. Very well, mate. Thank you for having me back on once again. In the absence of Joe Sansom, always happy to talk Fulham, albeit a terrible game to discuss this week, given how just drab and dull it was on Saturday at the G-Tech.
Oh, it was dreadful. I mean, it was a really dreadful game. However, I can't really speak for most Fulham fans who probably were watching all 90 minutes. I actually fell asleep in the second half for about 25 minutes. I woke up and TC was on the pitch and Bobby Reid was on the pitch, and I was like, what's going on?
What's going on?
A combination of probably too much drink / not enough sleep the night before. I think the halftime beer we had might have tipped me over the edge.
Yeah.
I wasn't drunk. I was just sleepy.
I feel like pre-game I'd certainly had one too many. But clearly not, because the game was so dull that at halftime I thought I needed another one to try and persevere through the second half. But yeah, it was a game of football that I went to, and that's all I can really say about it.
It's a footballogy. It's a footballogy tick. So that will go down as another game. One thing I will say about the G-Tech, it's not my favourite stadium to go to, but I do quite like the concourse because there's two levels to it. So before the game, we were stood the lower deck, then we went up to our seats, and at halftime we went on the middle deck where you go up to your seats. So there's quite a nice little balance to it. And what did we even drink? Was it Carlsberg in the end? Yeah.
I think I had a Guinness.
You had a Guinness.
I think I had a Guinness at halftime. But yeah, I actually don't mind the G-Tech that much as a ground. I don't. It's easy to get to. It's slightly bowlish, like kind of Reading and Cardiff and all those, but it's still got a little bit something different to it. The concourse is all right. You can drink in Putney and then wander into Kew. It's fine. It's a fine ground to go to.
It's very fine. One thing I will say about the game, and this isn't even about the game, it was the atmosphere. Fulham fans made good noise, that's fine. But the Brentford fans didn't hear a peep from them for what I was awake for. I thought it was meant to be a big derby. You know, they did the big little promo video before the game. They were really up for it. But I think the game the atmosphere sort of reflected the game, and the game reflected the atmosphere. It was just a bit dead. Obviously, Raul Jimenez had a huge chance, should have scored. That recovery run from Adama Traore to stop them going clean through was pretty impressive. Apart from that, not an awful lot happened. They hit the bar, but it was a really weird shot. It had no power in it, and still had managed to hit the bar from, I think it was in Mbuemo. We're not going to spend more than 2 more minutes on this game before we go to City. So, what are your thoughts on the game, really?
I thought that Fulham were the better side of the two. I think that Brentford were actually pretty poor, but we were just unable. We got into the right position so many times, and we just couldn't get that killer ball in. And the one time we did with Raul Jimenez, how he's not put the ball in the back of the net is beyond me. The atmosphere. I think atmosphere generally was pretty drab. I think Fulham fans were up for it a bit, but the game was really kind of petering, and neither side could really get excited for anything. So it's one for the books, I guess, but it's not one that will be remembered fondly for either side. I suppose the only real talking point again is the Marco Silva substitutions that have again kind of drawn kind of question marks in terms of bringing on Raul Jimenez, when I don't necessarily think that Rodrigo Muniz should have come off the pitch. I think the Adama Traore substitution made sense for Willian because Willian was having a really poor game. Another clean sheet for Fulham now. Defensively, we're actually having quite a solid season. I was having a look earlier. I think we've got the 6th or 7th best defense in the league this year or something like that. So we're having a really solid season defensively. And I think that the game on Saturday kind of summed up where Fulham are at the moment. And defensively, we look quite solid. Issa Diop's been really good since coming in. but we struggle to have that clinical edge in the final third at times to kind of just getting that ball in the back of the net, which is an area that Fulham, we've spoke about this. It's an area that Fulham kind of maybe look to need to address in the summer.
Absolutely, and we can talk more about the summer as the weeks go on, as we literally enter the end of the season. We've got 2 games left. Manchester City on Saturday, which we'll preview now. And then we go away to Luton Town. But first, and I know it's taken me a long time, but we are sponsored by Green King, and we thank them very much for their sponsorship this season. As we enter the run-in, you can head into a Green King Sport Pub and watch, playoff games, and if they're not postponed, like MK Dons versus Crawley was yesterday, that was ridiculous. Europa League, Conference League, Champions League semi-finals, the run-in, relegation, title deciders. It's not all decided yet. Nothing's been decided. And of course, we must mention the fact that after I just finished this promo where, deals and competitions are available if you download the app, and you'll be helping out Fulhamish by doing that as well. And there are games on the box. Sorry, I don't have my phone with me at the moment. What's on the box? Oh, it's just Manchester United, away at Arsenal on Sunday. Sorry, Arsenal away at Manchester United on Sunday, and Saturday Fulham at home to Manchester City on TNT. And I think maybe Villa play Liverpool on the Monday Night Football, if I can remember correctly, and then Saturday evening.
The Saturday evening game is Nottingham Forest hosting Chelsea at the 5:30 on Sky.
Absolutely.
I know.
No way I'm watching that. So head down to a Green King pub, enjoy the action, have a level up, have an icebreaker. They're the 2 IPAs I can recommend the most, or just have your regular lager, or you don't even have to drink at all. I think after Saturday, I've decided I'm not going to drink for a while because it was just an absolute car crash. Got home, I was just exhausted, just slept basically the whole evening and stayed up the whole night. But the Sam's chicken went down a treat. So, Ipswich Town promoted to the Premier League alongside Leicester City. That's a fantastic story. I think we all wanted Ipswich to go up, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm pleased for Ipswich. I think in terms of starting Leicester, I kind of had them to win the league at the start of the season, and for the majority of it, it looked like they were going to. Had a bit of a wobble, but have come back into it. But Ipswich is the story. They've done so well under Kieran McKenna in League One, and then some people were kind of tipping them. Could they potentially sneak in a playoff place this season because they just were so good last year? But then some people were like, no, they need to adapt to the league, which is a very understandable thing to say. But they've kind of gone from strength to strength, and they've really given it a right go. And it's impressive. 3 teams finished on 90 points, 90 plus points, and Ipswich one of them. And well deserved of being a Premier League side next year. Portman Road's a really nice ground. It's a good away day. Some good pubs around the area as well. So no complaints from me on that one.
It's one of the best away days you can do, I think. I think it's severely underrated. 5-minute walk from the station, like you say, some really good pubs. Really delighted for them. I mean, they went to Sunderland in their opening game of the season. I was thinking, boys, it's going to be a tough test. And they won. They won, I think, 2-1 in the end. And from there, I mean, they lost to Leeds home and away by 4-3 at Portman Road and 4-0 at Ellen Road. I was thinking, oh, God, maybe now the wheels will come off. And everyone did think that at some point the wheels would come off for Ipswich. And even if they would finish in the playoffs, it'd be a good achievement. But top 2 was just a stretch too far. But no, they recovered from a really wobbly patch they had early in the season. And even, they drew to Hull and they were leading 3 times. And I was thinking, oh, God. But they had that game in hand against Coventry. And they won. Again, they were pegged back where they took the lead and they saw it out. And then they were playing a Huddersfield team at the weekend who were already down, basically. And it was a pretty routine win. It's a great story. They came second in League One last season to Plymouth. Plymouth, who only just survived on the last day. And they're in the big time for the first time in 22 years. And it's a much bigger and better story than Nottingham Forest getting promoted because, yeah, Ipswich also have their history, but they don't bang on about it every 2 minutes like Nottingham Forest do. I don't know if you've seen with the news today that Nottingham Forest will not be getting a subsidised points deduction. But however, I do think that the result of the weekend against the Blades and Luton drawing with Everton means that I mean, we could relegate Luton on the last day. We probably will. However, it could be done and dusted by this weekend as well if they beat Walham Green and Luton lose to West Ham.
Yeah, I think it is going to go down to that final day, and I hope it does as well, just so there's a bit to the game, so there's a bit of an atmosphere and everyone's a bit up for it. Obviously, as well, at the same time as us playing Luton, Burnley were playing Nottingham Forest, which could be, quite a good game.
Huge.
But obviously, Burnley, heavy defeat on the weekend, which just kind of maybe kicked the stuffing out of them a little bit. It looked like they were maybe going to try and get out of it, and now there's a 5-point gap between them and Forest, and that maybe with 2 games to go, considering they now play Tottenham on the weekend. I'm pretty sure. They play Tottenham on the weekend. I think that's maybe a little bit of a mountain to climb for them.
We play Manchester City this weekend, the champions of last season, and I kind of want to win for obvious reasons because we support Fulham, but I want to win as well because I'm pretty bored of Man City winning the league. 4 years running would be a Premier League record. It would be very impressive, but I think, say what you want about Arsenal and their fans or whatever, and what it would do for the fan base, the arrogance of but their team is pretty likable. Arsenal's team. I'm not saying that Man City's is not. I just think it would be nice to have a new colour of ribbon on the trophy this season. I'm pretty bored of Manchester City winning it. So there's some really good incentive for Fulham here. Arsenal want us to win. Liverpool want us to win, although Liverpool are not really in it anymore. But, I mean, we could really have a say in this title race. And given Manchester United's performance last night against the pride of South London, the famous Palace boys, I mean, Eze and Elise, we could sit here for hours and speak about that performance. But unfortunately, we don't support Palace. We support Fulham. I'm only joking. I would rather support Fulham, of course. And Palace were brilliant. But my point being that Manchester United might crumble again at home to Arsenal this weekend. So if Fulham could get a draw or even a win against Manchester City, that really does open the door for Arsenal. But we are playing Manchester City. And even last season, we gave them quite a good game. They scored very early through Erling Haaland because it was a penalty. And then Vinicius equalised. And then Alvarez scored a really good goal. Really good goal. I actually missed it. I was in the loo. But great goal. So how do you see this one going against Manchester City? Can we do it? Can we actually get a point or a win?
I think it's so tough. I think it's so tough. Playing City not whenever in the season is horrible, but this time of the year is the last time you want to play City, when it's right at the end of the season and they've picked up in form. I'm trying to remember, as I was on my phone, I was trying to scroll through, trying to work out the last time they lost a Premier League game. And I mean, I'm looking back now, unless I'm missing one glaring one, it looks like it was when they lost to Villa in December, but that cannot... They surely have lost a game since then. They must have done, because otherwise that's quite an incredible feat. I'm just kind of scrolling through now. Obviously, games they could have slipped up at. Arsenal, they drew 0-0. They drew away at Liverpool.
0-0.
Just looking through the results now. That looks like the last time they lost a Premier League game. Which, when you consider how kind of tight the league is quite. Yeah. It shows just how well Arsenal have done as well. And obviously, they come into this game, unbelievable result, 5-1 against Wolves. Obviously, comfortably beat Forest as well, comfortably beat Brighton away a few weeks ago as well. So it's going to be really tough for Fulham, and we're not exactly in the kind of the best run at the moment in terms of, we haven't really got a lot to play for, and, maybe struggling to put the ball into the back of the net. So I think that it's going to be a real task for Fulham to get anything from this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest game of the season apart from Manchester City away. Man City at home is pretty difficult in itself. But there's plenty of positives from Fulham. I mean, we're at home. Our home form is pretty good. We've got results out of Arsenal. We beat them. We beat Spurs. We drew to Liverpool in the Cup. I mean, our home form has been very, very good this season. However, it has tailed off of late. I can't remember the last time we won at home now. Was it? Because we lost to Newcastle. We lost to Liverpool. We drew to Palace. Drew to Everton.
Tottenham.
Oh right, yeah,
Tottenham.
the Tottenham, and that was a great night. It was fantastic. We've beaten United away from home. I mean, we've got some big results this season, and I think this will probably be, given the circumstances, given the context, probably the biggest if we were to win. So in terms of a lineup, let's go with Leno, clean sheet on Saturday, very good. Robinson, Bassi, Diop. I think Bassi Diop is becoming quite a nice partnership. They're doing all right. Diop was pretty good at the weekend. And then right back Castagna. It's a shame because obviously this is the last home game of the season, so there's going to be a big old lap of honour at the end, which hopefully all the Fulham fans will stay behind because the players deserve enormous credit. The staff deserve enormous credit this season. So to give our applause and our appreciation just goes a long way for them, and obviously them clapping us back goes a long way for us. Like I said this last week, I'd like to start Tom Kearney, but I think the opposition probably suits Paulinho, Lukic, Pereira. Now Willian was really off the boil when he played at the weekend, like really off it. So I'm going to go Iwobi left, Wilson right, maybe Bobby actually. Bobby will probably start right, just to give us a little bit more defensive security. So I think Bobby will start, and then Muniz up top with Iwobi on the left, or Wilson on the left, perhaps. What about you?
So in true fashion, I agree with you for the most part. I think that the goalkeeper and the back four stays, as you mentioned there. Bassi and Diop have been really good over the last few games. I've been very impressed with Mr. Diop. Midfield, it probably does suit Paulinho and Lukic. Lukic is normally at his best when he's playing against one of the big six sides. So I would play Lukic alongside Paulinho. Pereira will play as well. I wouldn't play Willian. He had a really poor game, I thought. And maybe just needs a little bit of a rest now. Maybe obviously his age is showing a little bit. So I would also put Iwobi over onto the left-hand side. On the right, I would play Harry Wilson. I would just quite like to see us be a little bit more kind of direct and a little bit more attacking, bit of excitement. Mm-hmm. I've seen a couple of shouts online from people because of how good Adama was when he came on. Should he start? I disagree. I think that Adama is at his best when he is kind of explosive and direct off the bench. In those kind of last 15, 20 minutes, especially if the game is, really tight and cagey at that point, and City kind of have to push out even further to try and, they need to win every game between now and the end of the season. And if they push out a little bit, Adama could suit that. And then obviously Rodrigo Muniz up top is the only answer really in terms of a striker partnership. But so that's what I would go with as my team.
And a score prediction before we finish.
I am going to go with a 2-1 win to City. I know, not very fun, but I can see a scoring. I ironically think it's going to go very similar to last season. I think City will score. Maybe then we'll equalise just after half time. And then they'll score kind of the last 15, 20 minutes and then just kind of kill the game off a little bit, just kind of keep ball and kind of take the sting out of it.
Well, you say that, and this is what the point I was going to make. Like, I think we should learn lessons from that Liverpool game where we gave them far too much respect in that second half and just basically let them run the show. So really press them. And the thing is, if you press City and they get out, they're in. However, just try and at least take the game to them, put them under a bit of pressure. Yeah, just go for it. Because if we have a second half where City are leading and they're just holding the ball and they're just passing it around and just sort of breaking the lines and trying to create chances, that's going to get very frustrating. And the Liverpool second half was frustrating. I think Fulham Man City could be an absolute firecracker of a game. I'm going to go with a Tresmond. Fulham 3, Manchester City 3, like in 2007 when I think Hammer Buatsa scored an incredible free kick up against Joe Hart, who was in goal at the time, I think. And in fact, it wasn't Joe Hart. It was Kasper Schmeichel who was in goal. But yeah, Fulham drew 3-3 with City and then 3-3 against Spurs. It might have been actually the other way around. That was an incredible time to go to a couple of home games at the Cottage. But I'm going to go 3-3. It's going to be an absolute humdinger where I think what's going to happen is they're going to take the lead and we equalise. They're going to score again and we say, no, we'll equalise again, 2-2. And I think we'll take the lead at 3-2 and then they'll get a goal back. I think it's going to be superb. and then we do the nice lap of honour. And one last thing to address. It's a bit old news now, but I didn't like the overreaction of Bobby Reid giving a shirt to what was supposedly just, I think, his trainer, who just happened to be in the home end. It's a mountain out of a molehill. If you see it without knowing the context, fair enough. I understand. I was a little bit like, what the hell has he done there? Then, someone, actually, I think Fulham Bone, his very good Twitter account, pointed it out and what had actually happened. People were still saying, oh, but you should never play in a Fulham shirt again. Oh, it's a disgrace. I was thinking, come on, it's Bobby Reid. It's not that deep, is it? He's a good lad. What are your thoughts on this non-event?
That's exactly what it is. It's a non-event in my eyes. I don't really think there's much more to say about it. I think that the reaction on Twitter to it was more kind of the fallout from the fact of we picked up 1 point out of Brentford home and away and Chelsea home and away, and I think Fulham fans were just a little bit frustrated at that, and just kind of using that as fuel to kind of go at anything. And Bobby Reid was just the one who was unfortunately in the firing line of that. Yeah, I don't really think there's a lot to it, to be perfectly honest with you.
In fact, you talk about nothing in it. I don't think there's anything in this derby. Fulham Brentford. I mean, of course, down the years, there's been big game. I think it's because it's the end of the season. Actually, the times we've played them in the season, the beginning and the end, means that there's just not much sort of animosity at all. Honestly, I could have gone to that game on Saturday, like you did, stood in the concourse, and I would have just forgot it was a derby. I had no signs of it at all. No back and forth between the fans, really. Nothing after the game from I don't know if you experienced anything. I didn't come across any Bees fans after the game. I saw a bit of Fulham fans chanting about Thomas Frank at Kew Bridge Station, but apart from that, nout. And it's just what it is.
I think that partially that is down to the fact of it is, the third to last game of the season, and it was 13th against 16th with nothing to play for. When we played them last season on that Monday night when we lost 3-2, it did feel a little bit more like there was something to it. Both sides still had outside shots of European football. And it was also, the first time they'd hosted us in the Premier League. So there was a bit to it.
Yes.
And I think there was to be fair, I think there was a little bit to it when we played them both last season at the Cottage and also this season at the Cottage. I think at the start of the season, everyone's got kind of high expectations. But yeah, I just think that the game on Saturday was just two sides who just didn't really care. And I think that partially that is down to both where both teams are in the league, but also just the performance was so dull. I think if that game would have been like 2-2, they take the lead, we equalise, they take the lead, we equalise, and there's a bit of back and forth, then we're probably going into this going, it did feel a little bit like there was something to it. But I think it was just the performance was so dull. And I thought, and while we're talking about Brentford, I thought Ivan Toney was absolutely terrible on Saturday. He was awful. He got booed off, I'm pretty sure, by the Brentford fans. He was terrible.
Well, they've only got one home game left of the season against Newcastle, and they basically know he's off. I think even a player in an interview, I think Mboimo might have even said in an interview that he's basically leaving. If I was a Brentford fan, which thank God I'm not, bloody hell, I'd be so angry with Tony. His attitude. I mean, if Mitrovic had done this last season, obviously he left, but if Mitrovic had basically, after his 9-game ban or whatever, 8-game ban, and he's basically been talking to the press, I know I'm on to bigger and better things. What bigger and better things is Ivan Toney onto, by the way?
Where's he going? I think he's kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit because before that, the gambling ban, he was one of the best performing strikers in the Premier League last season. I thought he was unbelievable. Yeah. He was a shoe-in for England and whatever. And he's come back from this ban, and I think he thought he was going to kind of rock up, kind of comfortably steer. I mean, Brentford have stayed up, but comfortably steer.
He did score goals, but he's gone 10 without a goal now.
Yeah, he scored a couple when he came back, and then since then he's not really done an awful lot. And I think his stock has dropped quite significantly. And I could see him on my initial when he was suspended. I thought he's going to come back, do okay, and then go to a big six side. it wouldn't even shock me if he ended up at like, I don't know, like West Ham, like or someone like that
Yeah.
now, just like a mid-table Premier League side who maybe have slightly more aspirations qualifying for Europe, maybe going to like a West Ham. Who else needs a striker? Maybe if we're thinking a big six, maybe like Tottenham or someone
I
like
was going
that.
to say Spurs, yeah.
But like,
Chelsea, but
yeah, his stock has fallen so much.
yes, he's gone too early with his own sort of. I don't want that sort. I don't like his attitude. I don't want it anywhere near the 26. But the problem is, I think he does get in. But I said it last week. Ollie Watkins has to be there. Harry Kane, obviously, and Dom Solanke has to be there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's gone from 23 to 26. It gives 3 more places. That all 3 of those places should go to Mark Gahey, Adam Wharton, Berici Eze. Definitely. I mean, come on. Gareth Southgate was at Selhurst Park last night. I mean, they were so good. I mean, United were terrible. I mean, we spoke about it last night, didn't we? We don't have to do it again. Jack, thanks so much for being here, mate.
Cheers. Thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for listening and watching. If you're going to City on Saturday for the last game of the season, try and enjoy it as much as possible. Even if City, kind of do win at a canter, I think that, the players deserve as many people as possible to stay behind and applaud what I think has actually been a pretty good season. It may be on paper looks like a little bit of a non-event, but I mean, defensively, I think we've been really quite solid for a lot of this season. And given the troubles we had in the summer, last summer, losing Mitrovic, almost losing Polinia, almost losing Marco, we've managed to bounce back really well. We've had some really good performances and some good wins, the cup run as well. So I think it's been a very good season. I think that the players and staff deserve fans staying behind and applauding them after the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even if we get bad, like 5-0, who cares? Hot poll can wait. It will still be there. Anyway, that's it. That is it for today. In terms of a Jack and Joe show going forward, we'll have one previewing Luton for the final game, reviewing City, and then we'll have an end of season review where we might go quite in detail about what's gone right and what's gone wrong, because most of it has gone right. I don't think anything's gone wrong really this season, apart from, I don't know, losing to Liverpool when we were 3-2 up with a few minutes to go. That was pretty annoying, but or the Burnley game, maybe. We'll get into that at some stage. But thanks so much for watching. And where are we? Come on, Fulham.